Hier ist die neue Folge der Ökonomie-Videos.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into what is, without a doubt, one of the greatest detective stories of the digital age. So, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? I mean, that's the central question, right? This ghost in the machine who just gifted the world this radical new technology and then completely vanished, leaving this massive, multi-billion-dollar question mark behind. Now, to really get a grip on the invention, you have to understand the world it was born into. This thing wasn't created in a vacuum. It was practically forged in a fire. So yeah, let's start right there. Okay, so our story, it doesn't begin with lines of code. It begins with absolute chaos. We're talking a complete, total breakdown of trust in the entire global financial system. This was, it was the perfect storm. You had this massive wave of distrust growing, and it wasn't just aimed at the banks that were, gambling with people's life savings. It was also aimed at the governments who were bailing them out. It really became this deep, profound crisis of faith in the whole centralized financial structure. So right in the middle of this raging financial fire, this anonymous architect publishes a plan for something completely new, a blueprint for a system that, get this, didn't require trust in any central authority at all. And what's crazy is how fast this happened. The idea went from a white paper to a working reality with this incredible methodical speed. Think about it. Just a few months after Lehman Brothers completely collapsed, the blueprint for a whole new kind of money wasn't just out there, it was actually alive and running. So for a couple of years, Satoshi was super active. Developing the project, working with other coders, really guiding the vision. And then, poof, right as it was starting to take off, they just went silent. Yeah, after one last forum post, this email from 2011, that was it. That was the last anyone ever heard. Just like that, the inventor walked away, leaving behind this thing that would, one day be worth trillions. So, with the creator completely gone, all we're left with are clues. And the first, most obvious one is the name itself, which, when you look at it, might be less of a name and more of a mission statement. So check this out. If you actually break down the Japanese, the name itself feels like a massive hint. Satoshi could mean wise or rebirth. Nakamoto can mean from the middle or center origin. So could the whole name mean a wise rebirth of money that comes from the middle of society, away from that central control? It's an incredibly poetic pseudonym, if that's what it is.
But here's where it gets tricky, because the clues just don't add up. He claimed to be Japanese, right? But his English was flawless, like native speaker perfect, even using British slang. And when you look at when he was posting on forums, the timing lines up with the Americas, not Asia. So was the name and the whole origin story just a really clever bit of misdirection?
Okay, now this is where the investigation really heats up, because over the years, a whole lineup of brilliant minds have been put under the microscope, each one a potential candidate for our ghost behind Bitcoin. First up, we've got a true pioneer in this space. I'm talking about Hal Finney, a legendary cryptographer and one of the very first developers to work on Bitcoin. And get this, the guy who received the very first Bitcoin transaction from Satoshi, that was Hal Finney. But the really wild part, he lived near a man whose actual name was Dorian Prentice Satoshi Nakamoto. What are the odds? Could he have just been inspired by his neighbor's name to create the perfect cover? It's a really tantalizing theory.
All right, now for let's say a more controversial figure, an Australian academic who, unlike pretty much everyone else, didn't just sit back and let people speculate. No, he made a very bold, very public claim.
So yeah, he came forward with a huge bang, but his claims just fell apart pretty quickly under scrutiny. He couldn't produce the one piece of proof that nobody could argue with, moving some of Satoshi's original, untouched Bitcoins. So in the end, that whole chapter just added a lot more drama than it did answers. Okay, this next suspect, this one adds a really tragic and compelling element to the whole investigation. It connects the timing of Satoshi's disappearance with a very real, very sad loss in the community. You have to remember, this was a small, tight-knit community. The connections ran really deep. In fact, there's a memorial to Len Sassaman permanently embedded right into the Bitcoin blockchain itself. It's this powerful tribute that really shows how important he was to this whole world, whether he was Satoshi or not. Next up, we have a guy who came so incredibly close to inventing Bitcoin himself, years before Satoshi ever even showed up on the scene.
This is such a fascinating piece of the puzzle, right? I mean, was leaving out Bitgold a super clever way for him to hide his identity, to throw people like us off the scent, or was it just a simple oversight by the real Satoshi? We don't know.
And look, the list of potential candidates just keeps going. You've got early collaborators like Wade Ai and Marty Malmy, both of whom deny being Satoshi. Then you get into the more out-there theories, pointing to government agencies or even other famous tech geniuses. But the bottom line? None of it has ever been proven.
So, after following all these breadcrumbs and looking into this whole cast of brilliant suspects, where does that actually leave us? The truth is, we may never know if Satoshi was one person or a whole group, a man or a woman. They created this world-changing technology and then they pulled off maybe the greatest vanishing act of the 21st century. They have successfully remained a ghost. And that really leads us to the final and maybe most important question. Does it even matter who the creator was? I mean, think about it. Is it possible that the most powerful part of this entire story is that this world-changing technology was given to us by no one in particular, making it an invention that truly genuinely belongs to everyone?